have been traveling so much lately. So you go to the University of Nebraska. You've been able to go to a couple college campuses to do a presentation. And then what happens after the presentation?
So about a year ago, I go into Cornhusker Nation, Lincoln, Nebraska, and I present with a constitutional lawyer, with mask expert Stephen Petty, an engineer, and I give the medical aspects of the pandemic response. And I ask for a few show of hands. I said, how many of you have had COVID? A packed auditorium, hundreds of people. People raise their hand. I said, how many of you have had a struggle to get early treatment? Nearly everybody raises their hands. And we go through the rationale of why this illness needs to be treated early so people of Nebraska don't get put in the hospital or lose their lives. Believe it or not, this got back to the Attorney General of Nebraska within 48 hours. He writes a 40-page brief, cites me many, many times in the brief, and said, you know what Dr. McCullough said makes sense. Doctors must need protection from any type of adverse consequences when they prescribe drugs to take care of patients with COVID-19, namely hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, and that could broadly apply to corticosteroids and other drugs we use to treat COVID. Doctors have been gun-shy to use these drugs because they're afraid of being nailed through their medical boards and their licenses.
Which is crazy because it should be the opposite. It should be using drugs like remdesivir that have high risk that they should be worried about, not hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin that have very low risk.
Completely agree. Remdesivir underwent a very careful review with a panel and human ethicists and others in Europe. And the World Health Organization in 2020 declared remdesivir should not be used to treat COVID, period. It doesn't work. More people die with it. They get kidney injury and liver injury. The European Society of Critical Care agreed. And to this day, 25% of Americans in the hospital are still getting it.
So you've had experiences where people see the information you present for the first time. They say, this makes sense. Let me get into this further, and then realize, hey, I could help my people with this. So I guess that's juxtaposed against the advice they were getting from the CDC or Fauci or the World Health Organization.
That's exactly right. And it's doctors in my circles. We're working together, working with health freedom groups. We're on the verge of having over-the-counter ivermectin in New Hampshire and Tennessee. We've had multiple laws come through, similar to that of Nebraska laws, actually, in the state of Kansas, not only supporting doctors in treating COVID-19 with these drugs, but also supporting patients who want mandates or they want some freedom from taking a vaccine. And that happened in the state of Kansas. And in order to have that happen, they had to topple the public health director there.
So in modern America, if you point out that biological sex is a physical reality, you can be fired from your job. The Washington Post will send a reporter to your house to intimidate you, but it doesn't change anything. Denying reality doesn't change reality. You could say gravity isn't real, but if you jump off the roof of your garage, you're still going to get hurt. And that's true for biological sex. It is in fact real, whether the authorities admit it or not. Officials in New Jersey are learning that lesson this week. 2 female inmates at a supposedly all-women's prison in New Jersey have just become pregnant. You wonder how that happened. Well, it turns out those women had sexual encounters with another inmate who was a biological man passing as a woman. Now, some people predicted that this would happen, and they were laughed at, mocked, and attacked as bigots.
It's not just the chemicals that are in our food and water that are feminized